Hello there, welcome to Season 3 of the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, your host, David Hale. In this season, we'll continue talking about all things to do with mediumship, the spiritual world, but also answering your questions to help you on your own spiritual journey or mediumship development. In this new season, I'll also be introducing some new horoscope readings done month by month per star sign, so do keep your ears out for those. But without further ado, let's get into this episode and I'll see you on the other side. Hello there and welcome to this new episode in my podcast series. Thank you very much for coming back and listening. And in this episode, we are going to continue the theme from the last episode, which was about public demonstrations, so platform work, mediumship demonstrations, or whatever it is you want to term it as. And I've been trying to record this particular episode for months and months, but I just found that I couldn't quite get out what I wanted to say clearly enough, concisely enough, and without it sounding like a rant. But it keeps popping into my mind. It's a topic that really gets my goat. And so it might seem a little bit ranty, this episode, but it's just something that I want to talk about because people either don't understand how delivering platform information works, but also there are some snobby, up their own arse mediums out there who badmouth particular ways of delivering information. And what we're talking about is direct versus indirect. So let me try and go to the very basics of this, just for those of you who don't do platform, who are not aware exactly how it works, just to understand what I'm trying to say throughout this episode. So when it comes to platform work, when you're trained to do platform demonstrations, whether it be in spiritualist churches or centres, or whether you do your own private stuff at, different venues and what have you, when you're taught to do platform work, this is from my perspective anyway, because I was trained in a spiritualist church, all right? I wasn't necessarily fully trained to do platform. A lot of platform work that I've done, I've trained and developed myself. So I'm giving you like a basic insight of the limited training that I had when I did a little bit of platform in a spiritualist church. Anyhow, so when you're trained to do platform demonstrations, you are clearly told that it's for mediumship, right? That might sound obvious, but it's about linking with spirit and giving evidence of survival, or giving that proof that life does go on. And so because that's what we're trying to do, what we are delivering on platform is evidential information and communication from the spirit world. So it's purely mediumship. Now I say that because there are some times on a platform where a medium might go to the psychic level, which there's nothing wrong with at all. But psychic basically means that you are reading the energy of the person that's in the audience. But ultimately, when someone comes to see a demonstration or they come to a spiritualist church to watch someone on platform, you are coming to watch mediumship. You are not coming to watch psychic readings, because that can get a little bit personal. If you're digging into someone's life in a public setting when you're on platform, that can be a little bit uncomfortable. So there are times where the medium might go to the psychics. They might pick up on something about the person that they need to tell them about or give them a message about. But ultimately, when you are working on platform, you are purely doing mediumship. At least that's from my perspective anyhow. So we're taught that when we start our link to spirit, we are waiting for that spirit communicator to drop into our mind, to connect with us, and that's our starting point. So whether they're male or female or mum, dad, whatever the relationship is, we can describe them. That is our starting point, all right? So that's the first thing I'm going to say. And then however you give the information, it's about being evidential. So it's giving the evidential information. So the person that's sat in the audience or the person that you're reading for knows exactly who it is. Now, this is where the point of this episode comes in, because I'm going to talk about the giving information indirectly and giving information or evidence, shall we say, directly. So firstly, what is the difference? So if you are a medium or you watch a medium who goes direct, that basically means that as the medium stands on the platform, they will look at the audience and they will go straight to a person they'll pick someone out and they will deliver the communication they've got from the spirit world. So that's going direct. To go indirect is where the medium is collating or collecting the evidence from the spirit world, and then they will say to the audience, okay, who can understand this? Can anyone understand the information that I have? So therefore, not going direct to a person, they're allowing the audience to listen, and if they can take all the information, then they will put the hand up. Sometimes in that case, the medium may get an idea of where in the audience they're going, whether it be the front, the center, the back, whether it be on the right side or the left side of the space. But either way, they're still going indirect. Now, let me tell you how I work. So when I'm on platform, I go indirect. So I don't go directly to a person and give the information. And I also know many mediums, really great mediums, who also work indirectly as well. But I also know that people's noses are turned up at that way of working. Now, let me explain why I work indirectly. Now, I work indirectly because when I'm on a platform, I am not paying attention to who is sat in front of me necessarily. When I start my link with spirit, I am paying attention to what they are putting in my head, so I get the most specific and accurate pieces of evidence that I can before I put it out into the audience. I'm not interested in picking people out. I always say that by me going indirect, I am allowing spirit to fully blend with me to give those specifics, and so that they will pick the person who they're going to. Because if I'm accurate and specific enough, only one person in the audience will put their hand up and can take the information. I am not working psychically when I am on the platform. And what I mean by that is, when I said earlier on about going direct, and this is my opinion, and I know other mediums out there who work this way will disagree with me, but that's okay because I'm not looking for your validation here. This is my opinion of it. If you are looking at an audience and you are drawn to someone, you are starting off psychically. Because as we always say, and this is always in all these teachings all these mediums give, that when you're working with a person's soul, a living person's soul, you're reading into their energy, that is psychic. That is not mediumistic. So if you are on a platform and you look at someone and you're drawn to them, that is psychic. And I was always taught that we do not start psychically, we always start mediumistically. Now, yes, things can change, teachings can change, but I'm not doing that. I am purely blending with spirit, which allows me to give out the most accurate and specific information that I can. Now, if you do work directly, that's also fine. I'm not saying you can't do that. If that's how you want to work, that's how you want to work, right? And that's fine. But these same people who are working like that, I have seen and heard, are bad-mouthing those people who work indirectly and putting themselves on a pedestal above those of us that work indirectly. Now, again, coming back to this issue of psychic. So again, if you are pulled to a person in an audience that you're looking at, you're pulled to them psychically, right? Nothing wrong with that, but then don't badmouth me and other mediums like me who don't do that, right? That's the first thing I'll say. However, if you are looking at a person because spirit have told you to look at that person or go to that person, then that is mediumistic because spirit are telling you to go to the lady at the back who's got the red cardigan on and the glasses, right? That's mediumistic. But again, I'm not judging you for doing that, but at the same time, don't tell me that I'm wrong for working how I work because I don't work like you. That's not how mediumship works. If we think about the spirit world, do you really think that the spirit world care how you get a message out as long as it goes to the right person. Do you really think spirit care if you go direct or indirect? And I'm saying that because you have the same mediums or spiritual people who put themselves on this pedestal of being full of love and light, but yet they're out there slagging off these people who don't work like them, or that way is not good enough, that way is not good enough. If you really understand the spirit world, you would understand that spirit world don't give a shit how you give the information out, again, as long as you give it to the right person. And that's the important point here. I think there's this thought that when you work indirectly, and I've had this said to me as well, that if you work indirectly, you're just throwing out the information. Excuse me? I don't throw out anything. If you are someone who has come to see me, work on a platform and do a public demonstration, I don't just throw things out there. So I want to get rid of that term and put that in the bin. Because as I say, when I'm blending with spirit, I'm asking them for the most accurate, specific evidence, so that when I do put the information out there, I haven't got 10 people in the audience put their hand up. I never have done. I only get, sometimes I'll get the maximum of 3 hands up, but generally, because of my evidence, I only get one person put the hand up in the audience. And that's because I'm specific, and I've worked on that type of mediumship, on the indirect mediumship, where I can be accurate enough that one person puts their hand up. So no, I'm not throwing it out. So we need to get rid of that term. Now, talk about terms. I've heard throwing it out with indirect mediumship, and I've also heard the indirect type, the style of delivery class as a bingo mediumship, because you're putting information out there, and people have got their hands up, and then it's then a process of elimination to get people's hands down. So you've got one person's hand up, right? I also take umbrage to that as well, because again, that doesn't happen to me. But I think the thing to say there is, if you're going to work indirectly, you need to be specific and accurate with your evidence. Now, I have seen, and this is on YouTube, a very well-known medium who's now based in the US, who is from the UK originally, on doing a public demonstration in a theatre, and says, I've got a boy here who died tragically. Who can take that? Now, that is not enough evidence. You've got a theatre full of people, maybe 500, and that's all you're giving. That is not enough to work indirectly, in my opinion. Because what you don't want, if you are a developing medium and you're developing your platform skills, if you are someone who does work indirectly, you do not want to be there for 10 minutes trying to sort out who you're going to. Effectively, again, you should get your information from spirit, put it out into the audience, and effectively you should hopefully have one person's hand up. If you have 2 people's hands up, that's also okay. It's then asking spirit, okay, give me something else so I know who I'm definitely going to. Or you then go with your pull of who you feel pulled to. And that's sometimes how it works for me. If I do happen to have 2 people's hands up, I'll either have something drop in my head to tell me exactly who I'm going to, or my gut will pull me, or my intuition will pull me to one of those people, which then you could class that as a little bit of psychic, and that's also fine. But it's just about honing those skills if you're going to go indirect. Because, I could train myself better, I suppose, to go direct, but I don't necessarily want to do that. Because my mind, I don't know if I could anyway, because my mind is not focused on who should I go to today, who should I pick out today. That's not mediumship for me, picking out people who you want to talk to. For me, it's about being organic and authentic enough to allow spirit to do the work. Spirits are the people who choose who their loved ones are, who they want me to go to. And that's how I look at it. It's who spirit want me to go to, and not who I want to particularly go to, But I just think there's so much snobbery out there. I even saw a post from a spiritualist, an online, no, actually, are they physical or just online? I can't remember, but they do online services anyway. And the advert was looking for mediums to do services online for them, with a tagline of, can only mediums, how is it worded? We're looking for mediums that can go direct with messages. And I thought, oh, that's lovely. So you mean that those people that only go direct are good enough and ones that go indirect are not? Is that what you're trying to say? And so that annoyed me a little bit as well. Not that I took it personally, because I don't. I work how I work, right? But I just thought, what are we doing here? What are we trying to divide people? There's enough division in on this planet. We don't need any more. But we're now trying to divide into direct and indirect, making out that direct is a better way to work and those people that work direct are better. Actually, they're not. And I've experienced and I've seen many mediums work direct, and it doesn't always work out either. I mean, sometimes I have seen mediums work direct and it's still taken them 5 or 10 minutes to place the person's spirit who they're saying is connecting to them. And I've watched many mediums, especially online, and I've been at the receiving end of a medium working direct. She came direct to me and kept going on and on about all this evidence that she had. But to this day, I'm still none the wiser as to who that person's spirit was. And I've seen the same with other people, is that a medium's gone direct, and you can see from the reaction on the recipient's face and the feedback and the validation or not they give back, that they're still not sure of who that person is, but the medium just still continues to talk and talk and talk. And because I'm only saying that because that's another thing which some mediums out there say, is that when you get indirect, it takes too long to place it. Well, not for me, it doesn't. And I've actually seen people, again, mediums go direct to their recipients, and it takes them longer to place the link because that person still is none the wiser about who that person's got. So just because you go direct does not mean your evidence is any good. So we need to stop this snobbery in this community about what's better, direct versus indirect. Because again, really, if I put it another way, if spirit were really concerned if we work direct or indirect, then they should be concerned about who's out there actually working as mediums. Because that for me is a bigger issue than working direct or indirect. So again, spirit don't care how you get the message out as long as you get it to the right person. And so if you are developing as a medium and you're working on platform, it's just about honing your skill and working how you want to work and what resonates with you. Because at the end of the day, when we're training as mediums, we are not, this is just my opinion anyway, we are not spiritual robots. We should not be the same. The reason we're becoming mediums is because we have something individual to offer. Our own personalities, our own characters we use whilst we're on a platform for spirit to be able to work with us and to use our own characteristics and personality to get the information out to the audience. Spirit do not want us to stand on a platform being robotic and work in one singular way, because how boring would that be? And that's an important thing for me to say, because I know when I was starting to do my own online demonstrations for services for churches and things like that, I felt very unconfident and very restricted and not good enough purely because I worked indirect. Because ultimately where I was trained, we were told that we should go direct and that spirit know what they're doing, so they will place you with the right person. Now, while that could possibly be true, I've seen that that is not the case. And it's not that spirit are wrong. As mediums, we are wrong. So spirit might want to know where they want to place us. But as mediums, we also have, as we know, a logical brain which can get involved and it can send us off track. I certainly know that when it comes to my sense of direction, in life in general, it's shocking anyway. It once took me 4 hours to drive 34 miles. There were 4 of us in the car. This is the days before we had smartphones or sat-navs. We had a map in the car, driving from Luton to Slough to go to a tattoo convention, and it took us 4 hours to get there. I know that sounds really ridiculous, but it's a true story. We had to pull over eventually on the M25, ring my stepdad, because he was very great with directions, he was a taxi driver, and he got us there. by talking to us over the phone to get us to the right place. So that sounds ridiculous, but that's a true story. But as we know, spirit will use, or not in this case, our frame of reference and our life experience to get the evidence out. So because my sense of direction in life is shocking anyway, it's not going to be any better when I'm doing a demonstration, and therefore I don't always know where I'm going. But again, there's nothing wrong with you if you go indirect, as long as your evidence is good enough to only have one person's hand up or two people's hands up in that audience, and then go with the pull. Or like the other night, I had two ladies put their hand up for one link that I had. I went to the first lady where I felt pulled to give her all the evidence and gave her an evidential reading, as I always do. But as I left her, I just felt like the link I had was not finished, and I felt I had a double link. And as I thought that in my mind, I heard chickens. And I went to the other lady that had a hand up and I said, right, I feel like I'm still with this link, but I feel I want to separate one for you. Would you understand chickens? And she did. And that was Spirit's way of letting me know I had not finished with that double link, and that I was indeed going to the other lady who understood what I said, plus the chickens, and then everything else and other new evidence that I gave that was specific to her and the person I had coming through. So as long as you can do that, then you're fine. Really don't pay attention to what people say you should do this or should do that. Because as I was saying, I just lost my point there. I'll come back to it. I was told to go direct, and because I didn't, and I kept hearing this thing of, oh, it's bingo mediumship, we don't go indirect here, I felt I wasn't good enough, and I felt that it stifled my platform mediumship. But when I then spoke to another fellow medium of mine, Kerry Standfast, who's a fabulous psychic medium who I've worked with a couple of times and will work with again this year, who also goes indirect, she gave me a little bit of a pep talk around it. And I always had that light bulb moment of, well, do you know what? There's nothing wrong with how I work. And I thought, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to work how I work. It works for me when I don't feel so restricted by other people. And once I let those restrictions go, my platform mediumship soared, because my mental mind, my physical mind was not blocking me by telling me you're not good enough if you go indirect. You have to go direct. If you don't go direct, then it's like, and all those thoughts were just blocking my link with spirit. And as soon as I let any of those expectations from other people go and the pressure from other people go, then my platform mediumship soared, and it still continues to, and I still continue to get better. But there have been times where I've thought, maybe I should go direct. Maybe I should train myself more to go direct, and maybe I'll be better. But then I have to stop myself and go, no. Do you know what? My platform mediumship works. It works for me. People have seen when I'm on platform, once I've got the link, I've got the link. I'm not spending 10, 15 minutes trying to figure out where I'm going. It doesn't work like that for me. I'm very much on it. I know who I'm going to, and people enjoy my platform demonstrations. But then I also think, from what I've seen from people, some mediums who go direct, I think I don't want to work that way, because another thing that I've seen them do, which is a situation which happened to me, is that, I don't know if it's a technique they purposely use, but this is just how they work. When they go direct to a person, they just talk and talk and talk and talk at them. There's no gap or breath for the recipient to validate what they're saying. So because the medium is just talking at the person, like this lady talked at me, not allowing me to say yes or no, to the outsider, it looked like it was great evidence. She's given all this evidence, but half of it I couldn't take. But she didn't stop me or stop herself to ask me if I understood. Just kept going on and on and on and on. So by the end of it, she feels great because she feels like she's given me a load of evidence and just talked at me. But at the other side of it, I still have no idea who that person was. And so I don't do that anyway. Whatever I do in mediumship, whether it be a private reading or a platform reading, I always get the validation, because I want to make sure ultimately that I am with the right person. Because I always make a joke with people and say, look, I always want to make sure that I place the link with the right person. So only put your hand up if you can understand the majority or everything that I've said, because I don't want you going home with someone else's dead relative. No one wants that. They want their own relative. So I do state that. So I will work how I work, and you know what? I will not work for those centres or churches who have that snobby attitude about, oh, you have to work this way or work that way. If you're going to have that attitude, then I don't want to work with you anyway, because it shows me that actually you don't really understand how spirit work. Because again, I've said this two or three times already, but spirit don't care how you get the message to a person as long as it goes to the right person. Otherwise, they should be more concerned about other things that go on in the spiritual community as well as that. Because this topic really, it pales in comparison to what else goes on out there in this community. So ultimately, I wanted just to do this episode because it is a topic that really annoys me, and I just really dislike the snobbery that's around it, especially coming from the people that it comes from. These people who I either know, or people who I don't know, but put themselves in these highly spiritual pedestals, talking about love and light and spirit of this and spirit of that, but yet they're still bad-mouthing other people. So to me, it's just a hypocrisy around it as well. But also, for those of you who are developing your platform skills or whatever, going to take your first steps onto the platform, doing this kind of work how you work what resonates with you. Going direct does not resonate with me, but going indirect does, and it works for me. I will no longer be pressured, and I haven't been for a couple of years anyway, but I will no longer be pressured into having to work in a certain way just to please a certain person or organisation. Nah, bollocks to it, not doing it. I work how I work, it works for me. At the end of the day, I'm serving spirit, I'm doing the work they want me to do, and I'm getting the information out in a way in which a person can fully understand exactly who I've got in the spirit world. And the way I do that is by zoning out who's in the audience to start with, and purely blending my mind with spirit to get the most specific and accurate information I can so it goes to the right person. That's how it works for me, and that's how I will continue to work. And so I say the same to you. So I hope this is useful to people. I hope it also just explains, even to people who just go and watch demonstrations, that there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you work direct, you go direct. That's perfect. That's fine. Absolutely fine. But if someone goes indirect, that's also fine. It does not mean that they are less of a medium than the other one that goes direct. And that, I think that attitude is just so silly and not needed, quite frankly. But I feel that's it. I think that's all I've got to say on this topic. I'm glad that I've actually finally been able to get it out. But it's just so people understand that there's more than one way to do this work, as long as you're doing it in the best way possible, serving spirit, working with the highest good of all concerned. That's it. Let's stop this snobbery, quite frankly. But that's it. Thank you once again for tuning in, and I'll see you again in another episode. Take care. So that's it for this episode. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, if you could leave me a review to tell me what you thought about it, it really does help me when it comes to creating new episodes. But also, if you could share out the episodes, share out the podcast, that would really help me as well to reach more people. But if you do have a spiritual topic or a question you'd like me to talk about on another episode, please do feel free to either email me or to message me via my Facebook page, and I will take that topic and question into consideration and turn it into a podcast episode. But as always, thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you all soon.